Hello, crafty friends. My name is Jessica, and welcome back to my channel. Today we have number 28 in the Color Blend series using the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. For this trio, we have Tidepool, Tropic, and Aegean. Now, these inks are currently, there are only 28, so this is the last one in the original blending series. So unless Simon comes out with more inks, this is the last one, just really focusing on the individual trios. Now, I do have ideas moving forward on how we can continue using these lovely inks in our craft rooms in different ways, so stay tuned to next week. So I can't talk about ink blending without talking about my favorite paper. And the paper that I have used exclusively for this video series is Simon Says Stamp's 130-pound cardstock. This is a beautifully smooth white cardstock. And like I said, it is 130 pounds as indicated on the website. It is thick. But the thickness isn't what matters. It's the smoothness of the surface and the way that the ink absorbs back into it. So because it's smooth, the ink sits on top for just a little bit longer than something like your 80-pound Nina Solar Crest, which I know a lot of us tend to use. With that, it's a little bit more maybe porous, and so it absorbs the ink very quickly. And so you can't move the ink as well on something like Nina, where this one has a really smooth surface, and so the ink can really move and you have a little bit of extra time to get those seamless blends that we've been seeing here in this video or these video series. So I'm just getting started with this lovely trio. This is a fun green blue trio, but it definitely leans more to green. I did struggle trying to decide what color family brush I was going to use on this series. I ended up using a little piece of paper and kind of stamping each color to see if it was more green, more blue, and I decided to go ahead and go with my green brush. Also, I am not sure why my brain loves to look at the color Tropic and say Tropic. I realized I did that earlier on. I'm sorry, it's Tropic. Now, this is the trio. Beautiful green blend. I really love all of these colors together. This is the first time I've seen them all three together personally, and I've used them all individually, and I loved them all individually as well, but this this trio blend is really, really beautiful. So up next, we have Melon, Tidepool, and Seafoam. This is what I'm going to call my challenge panel. Sometimes I do challenge panels where I try to think outside of the box and blend two colors that normally wouldn't go together. And so if you know anything about color theory and just a little bit, you know that green and orange don't blend together. Orange is a mid-tone warm, green is on the cooler side. So these inks should not blend. But what I'm finding with these color line is you can get some really beautiful blends by taking your time, by ensuring that you're going in very light-handed, which is a tip that I like to offer, and just taking your time to blend these colors. Now, if you went in really hot and heavy and tried to slap the ink down, you're going to get brown. Like if you're not careful, you're going to get some kind of murky color together when you layer these two together. But like I said, I'm taking my time. I'm slowly pulling the color into each other. I tend to like to pull the light color down as far as I want it to go and then slowly work the dark color over the lighter color. It's a habit that I've done. I find that I have a little bit more control when I'm pulling that dark to kind of see how dark it's getting and then to allow myself that extra little bit of time. So what do you think? That was Melon, Tidepool, and Seafoam. Little bit of a strange color in between, but what's really beautiful about these inks is that they do dry back. So pay attention to them up in the upper corner. They're going to smooth out and even. And so that little color in between Melon and Tidepool is going to look very different in the end. All right, here is our panel number 3. This is Tropic, Royal, and Amethyst, a very bright, regal kind of trio. So, for the tips, we've talked about how to lay ink down. We do it light handed. We've talked about paper. We've talked about how I like to pull dark colors into light. So, I start with my light, and then when I get it to where I want it, then I slowly bring that dark in. Of course, I'm also bringing that light down. That's the way to get a successful blend, is to really go back and forth over each other. But now I want to talk about how I hold my brushes. I hold my brushes by the head of the brush because this is for two reasons. It allows me to lay my ink down lighter. I am very heavy handed, I'm aware of it. And so anything I can do to help alleviate throwing that ink down very, very heavily is important. And that is one of the reasons why I hold my brush head like this. The other thing is that it gives me more control, so I can really focus on where I want that color to go. So I guess I have 3. The last one is because I am heavy-handed, using the brush doesn't give you a lot of control, or it tends to allow you to want to push down heavier to lay color down. And so I have snapped brushes before. If you're not new here, you're aware of that. It was not one of the Simon Says stamp brushes, but it was a industry brush, and I snapped it. So if you're heavy-handed, I really encourage you to try to use the head of the brush like this so that you know how much control you have, how much pressure you're using, and how much ink you're able to lay down. Look at this really beautiful color. Now, I did go in very light-handed with this one. I was chanting it to myself when I was laying down Royal, because Royal is a royal blue, so it's gonna go in very hard, pack a lot of punch. And so I was chanting to myself to go in light, light, light. So this is Tropic, Royal, and Amethyst. My first thought with this panel is definitely mermaid. My daughter just recently had a 4th birthday party, and she had a mermaid themed party, and this was a lot of the colors. But what's really fun is I went in light with that royal, and it really just set the tone for the other colors. Now, I could have went in very heavy-handed with royal. That would have gave this panel a very different look. But because I went in light, it left it a little bit more airy. So for the last panel, I thought we would try a little bit of a half rainbow. So if we have cherry, honey, and Aegean. Now, cherry and honey tend to be more on the bold side. They are not the brighter colors, although honey looks like it's bright. Yellows are always so hard to capture on camera, but the cherry's a little bit more subdued of a red versus, the brighter colors that were originally launched with this line. And then, of course, Aegean is just a little bit more of that royal, bold green line as opposed to like Lucky, which is your bright grass green color. So I'm just taking my time here. When I'm using yellow, and especially when it's in the middle, I like to start with it first. And it's just because yellow can very easily be taken over by other colors. It's lighter, or maybe our minds are trying to overblend, not giving it that time to blend in a shorter distance. So we tend to I tend to overcome yellow very quickly. So I like to start with yellow. There's also something about starting with the lightest color so that your brushes are trying to stay the cleanest as possible. That's another really great tip that I've heard recently. But for me, starting with yellow is more about the fact that I want to ensure that I put enough of it down so that I don't cover it up. And because once you put down the lightest color and you put a dark over it, you can't go back and add more light. So that's what I'm doing here. So look at how beautiful cherry and honey blend. These inks are great because you can get additional ink colors in between colors sometimes. So as you can see, we got a beautiful orange in between the red and the yellow, and then a really fun yellow green in between the others. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick clean. I'm going to take a moment to let you know that all the links are listed below for the supplies used today. They are affiliate links, and what that means that is if you click on a link and shop with me, I do receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. And now let's talk about the panels. So our first one here is Tidepool, Tropic, and Aegean. Look at how beautiful this dried back. This was a little bit darker on camera when we originally were done with the panel, but then it dried back a little bit more bluish to me, and it's really, really fun. So now we have Melon, Tidepool and Seafoam. Look at how beautiful that color in between Tidepool and Melon are. It was a little bit gummy or murky, and then it dried back beautifully. This is Tropic, Royal, and Amethyst. Really, really love this fun mermaid blend. And then our bright beauty here at the end. This is Cherry, Honey, and Aegean. Well, thank you so much for joining me here for the 28th version of the Color Blend series. Like I said, this is the last in the series, but I have ideas moving forward. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.